Hey fans, so I have a little treat for you today. Thanks to my friend Nick G, I was able to procure 2 Crosby steam whistles, or air whistles from eBay, and we're gonna go through a few details about them today, and do a test blow. Well, we'll do 2 test blows. We'll do one at my house, in my garage, using my tiny air compressor, and we'll also bring these 2 whistles up to Brantford and we'll test them on shop air. So as you can see, we have the two whistles here. You'll see that they're inscribed with the Crosby name. The whistle on the top, that's the newer whistle, dates to, I want to say, the early 1900s, probably about 1930 or so. It's of a newer design where the bell portion rotates independently of the air intake. I'm not going to rotate it now because I don't really have a good setup, but you can see it does twist a little when I'm doing this. The position it's in now, where there's a little kink here and it lines up with the O in Crosby, this is where I want this tuning to be for it to blow properly. This is an older whistle, the one on the bottom here. You're going to notice that the designs are slightly different, not so much in the functionality as cosmetically. The hex nut is a little smaller on the older whistle. This whistle here actually does have a date on it. The patent date is 1877. Let's see if I can find that. Patent date, yes. Patent date is 1877. You'll notice that overall the dimensions of the whistles are pretty much the same. The overall length is about between 6.5 and 7 inches. The length of the bell portion itself is about 4.25 inches, and the diameter, I want to say, if I remember off the top of my head, is 2.5 inches. Yeah, it's about 2.5 inches. So another note I want to make up the older whistle is that the bell doesn't turn freely. This is a permanent tune, which I sort of like this design better because you don't have to worry about it actually untuning itself. Whereas for the top whistle, if this rotates off, it distorts the way the air flows. It doesn't hit the bells properly. Also, the whistle up here, it does have, there are a couple deformities on it. You can see that bulge right there. That's not supposed to be there, so that affects how the air hits the air chamber when you blow the whistle. This thing up here is just a makeshift air valve that I constructed out of parts from Home Depot. But yeah, so I have my compressor charged up downstairs, so why don't we take these downstairs, hook them up, and see what they sound like. So there's one thing I forgot to mention earlier about these whistles is that these are the types of whistles that you would have found on old New York City transit equipment back when, before the merger and the city took over. So you would find these whistles on, say, the IMD R9s. You could also find these whistles on older BMT stuff. So the whistle that spins, let's put this down before I drop something. The whistle that spins, this is the type of whistle you would have found on the R9s. And the whistle that is older is the type of whistle that you would probably have found on something like a Brooklyn Union elevated car, or say a BMT standard or D-type. Maybe not the D-type or standard, but definitely the Brooklyn Union elevated car, so like the gate cars. So we're going to test out the R9 whistle first. I'm going to turn my compressor off so it doesn't cycle on unless I want it to. That way I can edit out the sounds more easily that I don't want in the video. So we're going to hook up the valve portion. The compressor I have runs off of it charges up to 140 or so pounds per square inch. So there's a compressor I have has several valve settings actually. We have the main tank. Obviously, we have the master feed valve, which I can adjust the air pressure to the line hose, and then we have the makeshift air valve that I have here. So we're gonna open this up, the master valve all the way. There's gonna be a little air leakage, but that's fine. Alright, and we're gonna hook up the R9 whistle. Last time I tested this, it wasn't terribly, it didn't like the air pressure so much that I hooked it up to. So I'm gonna hope that this time it's a little better. There we go. Alright, so I can tune this right. Okay. About there should be good. Alright. So, see how this sucker sounds. That sounds terrible. This one doesn't like to blow on high pressure. When I tested it last time on low pressure, it sounded okay. See if I can replicate that. So we're going to lower the feed pressure from 125 to about 75 and see what that does. It doesn't bode well if I want to put this on 1689. I've lowered the feed pressure to about 60, so this blows well on 60 pounds, but I don't know why it's not. It's got to be something with that deformity in the bell. I'll have to take a look at this more when I get up to Brantford, but this is not bode well. Lower to 50, see what that does. Try that. Nope, absolutely not. Super annoying. Yep, that's the best we're going to get out of this, which is sort of sad. I'll have to see if I can make this blow a little more cleanly on higher pressure. See what I can do at a later date. Okay. Alright, that's enough for this whistle. Sounds like crap. I'm gonna have to turn the compressor back on to recharge it, so I'll probably edit that part out of the video. It takes about 2 minutes or so for this to actually go. Let me shut this off so it doesn't leak air. So, compressor's done recharging. I'm going to shut it off so it doesn't go on. And we're going to hook up the older Crosby whistle, which during my previous tests did sound much better than the first one that I bought. So this is probably going to be a better candidate for putting on one of the RT cars at the Brantford. Let's see if I can get this to... Okay, alright. So, let's see what this sounds like. Gotta open up the master valve. Probably a good idea. Let's see. Look at that. That sounds beautiful. And that's on 130 pounds of air. Which is great because it doesn't overblow. Once you crack the valve open, it doesn't matter how far out you go, it stays the same pitch, which is what the whistle really should do, which makes me think there's something wrong with that one. We'll see what happens, but so I'm starting to lose air pressure, so we'd have to recharge this again, which I might do because I still want a few samples of varying length, so I might be able to use this for like BD or something. So just give me a moment. Yes, it's very hard to do one of those quick blasts like this with a valve that's of this design. So at some point I'll probably actually purchase an authentic whistle valve, which makes it easier to like quill stuff like this and whatnot. But yeah. Yeah, so that concludes the whistle tests. But yeah, as earlier as you could see, this was the master valve, so I can adjust the end feed pressure. The top gauge is obviously the tank pressure. I can shut off the valve from here. And this is the other valve it's still quite stiff, so it requires some effort to actually turn. So yeah, the last thing I'm going to go through here is how to clean a whistle if you should buy one. The best cleaning fluid that is recommended for whistles like these would be lacquer thinner. This is very, very, very strong stuff. So you don't want to use it unless you have an area that that has good ventilation, because there's going to be a lot of chemicals in here that evaporate into the air. It's got acetone in it. It's got a bunch of other things that are harmful to your health. So when I was cleaning my whistle, I would just pour a bucket of the acetone, the the lacquer thinner in here to this 5-gallon bucket, and I just put the whistle in and let it soak for an extended period of time. I had the garage door cracked open for ventilation. And yeah, really all you do is just let it soak. Make sure you have gloves on, obviously, when you're handling this stuff. I had latex gloves, waterproof. So you're really just letting it soak, moving around the whistle to get some fluid flow into the chambers and the air inlets and outlets. And then I really recommend, if you have a wire brush that you can actually like get into these bells with, really clean them out, because see, it's still dirty even after I soaked it. Wire brush, or if you're like me and you don't have any of that cool stuff, toothbrush works fine as well. Not as effective, obviously, but it works. So yeah. Back to the first whistle. I'm just gonna unscrew this. We're gonna take a look at something. Give me 1 second. So yeah, here we go. So the part of the whistle here that concerns me is this, the ring portion of the air outlet. So as obviously you can see, the bell screws into this center hole here, so it restricts the air from coming through the center. And then as the air comes in through this way, you can see that it comes out the ring, the little outlet on the ring. So if you can look here, the ring is a bit misaligned. You have a little tight portion up here, and the rest of it is sort of open. So that does, what that does do, it does redirect the flow of air at a certain angle, so where it doesn't hit the bell properly. And obviously, as earlier I noted, there is a bit of a dent on this side of the bell housing. So that may play a role in why this whistle doesn't want to blow well anywhere over 65 pounds of air. So if there's a way to fix that, I'm not aware, other than maybe like an extensive reconstruction, which I don't know if it'd be worth it or not. But if any of you know a way that I could repair this whistle so it blows nicely, let me know. Alright, so thanks for watching. This is part 1. I will bring these whistles up to Brantford on Monday, which is coincidentally tomorrow, and we're going to hook these up to Shop Air, which has a lot more air supply at about the same air pressure, about 110 I think it is. It runs off an R9 compressor, and we'll see if it sounds any different. I doubt it, but we'll see. So thanks for watching, and until tomorrow. See ya.